This program is brought to you by the Vegetarian Society of Hawaii, a nonprofit organization dedicated to sharing with the community the many benefits of a vegetarian diet. Free monthly meetings include vegetarian experts found locally and on the mainland, quick and easy cooking demonstrations, and healthful and delicious food samples. Members enjoy an informative quarterly newsletter, social activities, and discounts at many vegetarian-friendly restaurants and health food stores. For an application, call 944-8344. That's 944-8344. Or visit our website at www.vsh.org. vsh.org.
Okay. Aloha, and welcome to the monthly public presentation of the Vegetarian Society of Hawaii. Since 1990, the Vegetarian Society of Hawaii has been following our mission of promoting human health, animal rights, and protection of the environment by means of vegetarian education, as we've grown to become one of the largest all-volunteer, nonprofit vegetarian societies in the nation. We are proud to say that we're celebrating our 25th birthday this year. We'd like to encourage those of you who are not yet members and those of you who are not even vegetarians yet to join the Vegetarian Society of Hawaii tonight. You'll receive an informative newsletter as well as discounts on Oahu, Maui, Kauai, and the Big Island at many vegan and vegetarian-friendly restaurants, businesses, and groceries, such as at down-to-earth organic and natural stores. You'll also be supporting events such as tonight's, which are not only made possible, but free to the community as well through your membership dues and donations. VSH members and friends can also enjoy popular social events such as our speaker dine-outs. Please remember that proceeds at all VSH dining events, including those mentioned tonight, only go to the meal providers, not to VSH, so it all goes to giving you the best possible dining experience. You're also welcome to come to our free vegan peer support group, Imagine a Vegan World meetings at 6:30 p.m. every Tuesday night, except if we have a lecture that night, such as tonight. You can see Terry Bear for details. Where are you going to be meeting next week, Terry?
I'm not sure, but we'll get the word.
Okay, it's usually been at the YMCA across the street from Alamona Center, but they're closing down for remodeling or something. So at this time, I'd like to recognize some of our hard-working meeting volunteers. We have Dr. Fred Foster at the reception table. Hi, Fred. Cyril and Patrick at the free literature table. Well, they were there a little while ago. There's Patrick in the back there, standing in the middle. And we have Terry Bear, who brought the beautiful lei for tonight's speaker and for his wife also. And Phyllis Fong, where's Phyllis? Yeah, there she is, who's brought our refreshment donation from Down to Earth and will be working with Terry in the kitchen. We also have James Richard. Where's James? There he is. He's waving his hand as he walks by in the red back, way back there. He does a lot for us. Thank you, Richard. Sorry, James. We also have Dr. Harris of the video camera right here. He's also hosting our speaker and his wife. We have Patrick Conner, who distributes their flyers for us. Where are you, Patrick? Matt Jessup, who does our Facebook page so ably. And Lula Say, whom we're going to have to bring over one day, who tweets for us on Twitter. If you'd like to join this great group of volunteers in having a great time while making a positive contribution to the world, please see me before you leave tonight. At this time, I'd like to acknowledge University of Hawaii Professor Emeritus Carl Seff, who's been a volunteer for the Vegetarian Society of Hawaii for the past 23 years. He's not here right now, I'm sorry. He has recently stepped down from the VSH board and his VSH duties. He had been an integral part of our organization for many years, as he'd done many different jobs, including being our meeting coordinator, reserving our meeting venues, bringing and serving refreshments, buying leis for our speakers, opening, setting up, cleaning and closing our meeting rooms, hosting many of our visiting VSH speaker over the years at his house, delivering an occasional VSH talk of his own, including his most recent one, the Confessions of a Low-Class Vegan, coordinating our VSH pre-Thanksgiving dinner each year, and keeping our famous dining guide updated. I am filled with gratitude that Carl chose to spend so much of his precious time and resources over the decades to help further VSH's educational mission, and hope that Carl enjoys a well-deserved rest after so many years of devoted service. I know that I speak not only for myself, but for my fellow VSH volunteers and for many of you who've gotten to know him over the years when I express my heartfelt mahalo to Dr. Carl Self. We'd also like to invite you to stay after tonight's talk to enjoy samples of some tasty vegan dishes donated by the generosity of Down to Earth. Please note that you can view tonight's talk on our VSH program, Vegetarian, on public access channels across the state, as well as on our website, www.vsh.org, along with many of our previous presentations, where you'll also find many of our other resources that we have to offer you, including that famous dining guide again. It's now time for our special guest. We're delighted to have with us tonight Madhava Das. Madhava Das is the president of Nutritional Research, Maui. He holds a certificate in plant-based nutrition from eCornell and the T. Colin Campbell Foundation. He has studied nutrition for over 40 years. As a nutritional consultant, food healer, and chef, he continues to amass a unique perspective on food and health. Madhava is the author of the book, Eat Your Way to Health, Healing, Kindness, and the Plant Life Cycle, with a 5-star book review from Maynard Clark, research administrator at the Harvard School of Public Health. He resides with his wife Sananda on the beautiful island of Maui. Madhava Das's presentation tonight is entitled Rainbow in Paradise, How the Colors of the Garden Guarantee Your Health and Long Life. Please join me in welcoming Madhava Das.
Thank you very much, Elaine. Thank you. How's that? Hi, I'm Johnny Cash. Okay, going to start tonight's show with a little ditty. Y'all know what a little ditty is? I'm gonna live forever. I'm gonna learn how to fly. I see it coming together. I feel it coming together. I'm gonna learn how to fly. I feel it coming together. Baby, you'll see me enter. I'm gonna make it to heaven. Light up the sky like a flame. I'm gonna make it to heaven. Baby, remember my name. Yeah, I hope the speech is better than that. Now, we may not be able to live forever in these bodies, but after tonight's program, you will know how to never die from a heart attack, stroke, diabetes, etc. So just as the colors of the rainbow are magical, and the colors in fruits and vegetables are magical. Colors in fruits and vegetables change colors to let you know when they're ripe and ready to eat. That's pretty magical. But more magical than those things is the plant's reproductive life cycle. So it starts with the leaf, and then the flower or the flower bud, and after the flower comes fruit or vegetables. So these are actually berries, but they're known as vegetables. And here's some more berries and vegetables. And this is fruit also. And of course, now here's the sweet fruits. Now, what do you see in the sweet fruits, you see the next final stage in the plant's life cycle. You see that fruit is loaded with seeds. Right? So the seeds in the fruits and the berries and the vegetables are the best way to get the seeds. They're tender, they're more young, they're more hydrated. So why is the plant's reproductive life cycle more magical? What's the reason for it? One thing is, as the plant grows, they collect more and more calories that we can eat. That's pretty magical. They do that automatically. Now that used to be a good thing. So why? The question is, why is this word restriction the wrong word? Right? That's because it disregards our natural history, our last million years of history, where food was hard to get. Food was hard to get. And even today in the world, many third world countries, food is hard to get. And you go there, they have very few overweight people. And overweight people are the rich people. Right? Okay. So throughout our history, we've had to battle with famines, with floods, with other animals. Especially when you have your own garden, you know how you have to battle with other animals just to get the food out of there, right? But we've had so much success throughout history, it hasn't been like that. We haven't had food such easily available, and especially calorie-rich, a lot of people are saying rich, or calorie-dense foods, right? In the past, calorie-dense foods, because they happen later in the plant's life cycle, harder to get. Plants, edible plants were eaten earlier in the life cycle. And earlier in the life cycle, the more nutrient-dense foods are. Now, National Institute on Aging, National Institutes of Health, April 2001. There's their statement about what they're calling calorie restriction, but I'm here calling it calorie normality with high nutrients per calorie. This is the only intervention conclusively and reproducibly shown to significantly increase slow aging and maintain health and vitality. Cognizant, long life. It's the only thing shown to significantly extend that. And it's just calorie normality with high nutrients. It's not a big deal. And then this is again recognized by the Department of Agriculture when they say it's important to focus on nutrient-dense foods that deliver a high proportion of what your body needs for their amount of calories. Marketers will take this statement here from the Department of Agriculture about how important it is to focus on nutrient-dense foods, right? But it's per calorie. But they'll talk about nutrient density per gram, which is misleading. It's just like a flat earth. Okay, so you got to be aware of it's per calorie. So this leads to the problem everyone's facing. Now, of course, you're interested group, and you're in general more controlled in your eating habits than the general population. But the general population who's a little bit less interested in healthy eating or animal protection, the general population, they're kind of caught, and they don't have the knowledge to be able to stand up to marketing forces that are always trying to twist things. So the problem we're all facing, it's the problem of success. So again, like we said, in the past, before agricultural revolution, food was so hard to get, and now especially, it's just super abundant, all these high density foods. So the problem of having too much rich food available. So that's the problem. It's simple. There's too much rich food available. And that's the problem. It's just so simple. Too much rich food, easily available, and no one's telling you not to eat the rich food. So that brings up the question, what's the solution? Right? Solution is a little bit more difficult. It always comes down to saying no. And it's difficult because the more calorie dense, the more rich a food is, the more actually physically addicting it is. Right? And, you know, when you're addicted to something, you deny it. Just consciously, subconsciously. You just have that tendency, unless you have some problem many times, right? So it always comes down to saying no. But through knowledge, right, we have to use these big brains, now. Through knowledge we have to say no. We have to say no to the rich foods. I mean, you don't have to say no to the rich foods, right? But if you want to live a long, healthy life in any significant way, free from the degenerative diseases, then we have to say no to rich foods. Pretty simple. Okay, so what's the science? How do we identify what are the rich foods? In my book, which my wife has one copy of, kind of came here on short notice, and don't ever trust the post office to deliver on time. You know? But anyway, I say that exact thing in there. Calorie efficient or efficient foods. So nutrient density. And then just referring again how the government knows that nutrient dense, high proportion of what your body needs per calorie. So it's known, everything's known. So how do we easily know which whole foods are the most nutrient dense? I may be jumping ahead here, but some of you may be familiar with Dr. Joel Fuhrman. Okay, so Dr. Joel Fuhrman, he's pretty big on nutrient density, high nutrient density. He's got a couple flaws in his overall conception, but in general, he's a nutrient dense guy, right? And he's got these elaborate charts. I don't know if you've seen them, you may have seen them in his books, of nutrient density. You look at them, and it's exactly lined up with the life cycle of the plant, the reproductive life cycle of the plant. The leaf, the flower, the fruit, and the seed. It's in that order. And that's what's magical, is, you know, there's a pattern there, there's something behind it. Okay, so it follows, the most nutrient-dense food follow the plant's reproductive life cycle. From the leaf to the flower, to the fruit, and lastly, to the seeds. Okay, so what does lastly to the seeds mean? Well, it means if the leaves, the beginning of the plant's reproductive life cycle, is the most nutrient-dense, then in the plant's life cycle, what is the most calorie-dense? The seeds. Right? In fact, that's the business of the plant, is to collect calories for its progeny, which are the seeds. Right? So in every seed there's an embryo in there. So that's the meaning of lastly seeds. So it means that too many seeds of any kind. So there's all kinds of seeds, you know, beans and grains and nuts and what have you, right? So this lastly seeds means too many seeds of any kind. They're borderline too calorie rich. Now, that doesn't mean they're toxic, but too many of them, they're on the calorie rich end. They're on the rich end. So vegans, if they're, you know, if all they eat is seeds, then they can be eating too many calories. Also in my book, I show how the National Geographic study of the longest living populations. Originally I put National Geographic study of the longest livers And I was going to put a picture in there of a stretched out liver, but I said it was too corny. But actually, I didn't have time to do it. So the National Geographic study of longest living populations confirms the sequencing of the plant life cycle diet. And you'll see they've got 3 circles and how they intersect and all this thing, right? And this is all detailed in my book. Okay. So in other words, the longest lived people eat in the order of the plant life cycle, starting with greens. Greens grow fast, and they're ready for harvest fast, right? So if there's a drought, many places, many times there's droughts, for example, and the seeds are laying in there, and it rains, what pops up first? You know, say there's a long drought and you're hungry, right? And it rains, what pops up first? The leaves, right? So you're going to be eating leaves. But the science is pretty simple. All right, pretty simple. It's not calorie restrictions, it's calorie normality, and that's how you live a long, healthy life. And that follows the plant's life cycle. And it's verified in a real detailed way in Joel Fuhrman's, nutrient density tables. So that's the science. And that's all confirmed to greater or lesser extent and it's confirmed by all the big guns of plant-based nutrition. T. Colin Campbell, and you guys are so fortunate you get these top level speakers here. Dr. Campbell, funded by National Institute, the China study, groundbreaking book. Dr. John McDougall, who figured his stuff out in Hawaii. You must have heard him say that. Obesity specialist. Now notice, in his starch solution, so he's a little more on the heavier side of things. However, notice in his starch solution, he's showing a potato, which is less calorie dense than the seeds, right? And Dr. Joel Fuhrman, we mentioned him, Olympic medalist guy, Eat to Live. And Dr. Caldwell B. Esselstyn, and you've had him here also. And he's another gold medal Olympian. And his book, Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease, I think is the most significant book, around. He took the rejects from the heart disease world, people who have had multiple bypasses, stents, and they kept coming back, just like Bill Clinton, right? Kept coming back. He took those people, and when previously in the year before he had them, they had like 60 heart events, right? In the 20 years since then, they had 0 heart events, right? So he actually prevents and reverses it, and he's got many pictures of the rejuvenation of the things. Whole food, high nutrient density that follows the plant's reproductive life cycle. So the big question is, what's your personal standard of saying no? Because that's what you got to do. There's rich foods, they're available, they're everywhere, and you got to say no. So what's your personal standard of saying no? And there's so many standards. Is it whole food, plant-based, but with occasional fish, chicken, or eggs? A lot of people like that. Is it vegetarian? Just means no animal flesh, basically. Is it processed vegan? Because who's that? I mean, Joel Fuhrman says just a processed vegan diet, not so great, like a cotton candy diet. Joel Fuhrman. If you have cotton candy and soda, it's vegan, but it's not going to help you. So is it rich, raw vegan? Pile on all the nut dressings? Or is it whole food, plant life cycle vegan, pile on the lemon dressing? So it's just a question of your own personal limit on richness. Fortunately, the success of your personal limit on richness is easy to track, easy to follow, understand. It has a testable, quantifiable marker. Now, you all may know this test, simple, common test, and the quantities. All right, so many of our big guns, mention this, especially Dr. Esselstyn. Right? So anyone can hazard a guess of what the simple test is, to quantifiable test that shows how well you're doing at saying no to rich foods. And that's your total cholesterol below 150 milligrams per deciliter. The existing medical establishment, they give you the number 200 for your total. Way too high. Way too high. But 150 total is easy to get. Mine's 127. It's not difficult. And LDL, cholesterol below 80. Now, many people confuse these two. And I say, I have a group, I'll say, well, do you know? Because if you don't know your cholesterol numbers in light of this, you're like flying blind without an altimeter or airspeed indicator in your airplane. You're flying blind if you don't know these. So some people say, yeah, my total is 130. But actually, their LDL is 130, which is way too high. So you got to know the difference between the LDL and the total. But they are 150 and below 80 for the LDL. Don't confuse the two. So Dr. Castelli of the Framingham Heart Study, longest running heart study, among others, he figured it out, he saw it. And Dr. Esselstyn, author of Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease, he confirmed it. So you can easily tell how you're doing by testing your cholesterol level in saying no. Check and know your numbers. It's simple, and if you're too high, just stop going to Colorado. No, I mean if you're too high, just eliminate some of your richest foods that you eat, and then that'll bring your cholesterol level down. Just do that until you're solidly below 150 on the total and 80 on the LDL. Nothing to it. It's your life, your decision. It's our lives. My life, my decision. Your life, your decision. Now, on an ending note, I'd like to say, did you realize that in every copy of 1 billion books of Genesis and in every copy of 1 billion Bhagavad Gitas, God asked us to be vegan? It's true. It's a fact. God is, was, and will always be vegan. And He wants us to be vegan. It's in billions of books. I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about your good health, our good health, and the lives of countless loving animals. Now, we didn't talk too much about that aspect of veganism, right? But there's some of that in my book, for example. Now, this is all tied together. Life, love, and health. It's all tied together. This plant life cycle. It's amazing. So that's it. That's the presentation. And where's Dr. Yes, okay. And now, with your permission, as Dr. Ruth Heydrich might say, live long and perspire. Thank you very much. Oh, she's a long-distance runner. So thank you. So I'm open for questions. I know we're running a little late, maybe. So Marty's asking, could I explain a little bit more about the plant life cycle and some details of it maybe. Yeah? Okay. Well, one thing is that, and I remember Bill here mentioned that, well, when you eat greens, right, lots of greens, and start with eating the greens, because they're the least addictive, right? So if you start eating with seeds, you're not going to want to go back to greens, so start with the salads, right? And so when you start with greens and eat plenty of greens, you won't be hungry. You won't be hungry, and you'll get all of the levels of nutrients that your body ever needs. So you have a big pile of greens, and then what's next? The buds, or broccoli and cauliflower, and what's that? Sunanda, what did we have the other night? Artichokes, right? Another flower, right? So they're the next step down. I mean, they're a step up in calorie density, which is a step down. Right? And then the flowers turn into fruits. Okay, and then so everything we call vegetable is mostly a fruit. Zucchini, cucumber, eggplant, on and on and on and on. Right. So the fruits are then a little bit less nutrient dense or a little bit more calorie dense. Right. So let's say if you had 1 pound of greens, right, then on the flowers, cauliflower, broccoli, I don't know, I think it'd be like 80% of a pound would be about equal in calories, right? And then get to fruits, and then fruits start to collect more calories, right? Not too many more, but a few more, right? And then so a lesser amount of fruits, and then seeds, all different kinds of seeds in small portions. So a very small portion of seeds would equal, calorie-wise, a large amount of greens. Nuts are a little bit more calorie dense than the seeds, right? And then there's other considerations, grains. We haven't been eating grains very long, and so it's part of the reason why the gluten is a problem. We just haven't been eating them very long. Yes, ma'am. So, looking at leaves, right? Sprouted leaf, the younger it is, the more nutrient dense it is, right? And the more flavorful and the darker it is, the more nutrient dense it is. So those things are really good for spices and flavorings. My wife here is from India, more or less, and so she's expert on, she's in a different category of cooking with this, because we're not using any oil, right? However, she will use a few of the high flavor spices. Well, that's what India is famous for. That's what Columbus discovered the West for, looking for those spices. I saw another hand or something. Yes. Raw or cooked? That's not as important as what your richness level is. Huh? And many of the raw vegans, there's good points to it, but many of the raw vegans are little on the heavy side of calorie density, right? And then there's the studies that say lycopene in tomatoes is more available when it's cooked and heated, right? So you could be totally raw if you followed if you didn't go on the dense side of things, on the calorie dense side of things. What's the lag time? In other words, if you change your diet, and then how long do you have to go with that new diet before you do your cholesterol test and find out how you did, right? So it takes 3 weeks. Or, could be longer, but a minimum of 3 weeks if you're strict. What would I typically eat? Okay, Typically, what I try to eat is a bowl of a variety of cut fruits. You know, between when I wake up and noon time. All right? So just fruit salad, I guess you'd call it. But nothing on it, just nice fruits. And one thing that always gets me, when you go to a restaurant and you go eat a salad there, right? Well, last time a salad will be like this one big leaf of romaine lettuce, you know, with whatever else they put on it, right? But that's one thing, and a great advantage of Sunanda, her association for me is she chops everything, right? And it just increases, you know, I guess you'd say the pleasure you take from the simple foods, right? So I'll eat a bowl of fruit, ideally, and you know, many times I do it. When I get up until noontime, so I became vegetarian then, and then vegan in '92, and then the reason was pretty much twofold, and generally, when I get the nutrition and the animal rights, I don't like to say animal rights, but dignity, right? Right? When I get both of those enough, and then I can make the major change, you know. Usually it wasn't just health, or it wasn't just animal rights. It's sort of a combination of both of them.
Thank you very much, Madhava Das, for coming and giving us this very informative presentation. And at the very last second, we got a really good speaker. Thank you so much. Appreciate your coming.
Thank you.
And to all of the rest of you, I think some of you are already heading out to get some of that delicious food that's been donated by Down to Earth around the corner. We appreciate all of you coming. Mahalo for coming, and have a safe return home. Good night, everyone. Bye.
This program is brought to you by the Vegetarian Society of Hawaii, a nonprofit organization dedicated to sharing with the community the many benefits of a vegetarian diet. Free monthly meetings include vegetarian experts found locally and on the mainland, quick and easy cooking demonstrations, and healthful and delicious food samples. Members enjoy an informative quarterly newsletter, social activities, and discounts at many vegetarian-friendly restaurants and health food stores. For an application, call 944-8344. That's 944-8344. Or visit our website at www.vsh.org. vsh.org.